Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, I'm just gonna give you any copies of course they leak.
Oh.
These were just given to me, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so just.
I bet and it wasn't as bad as your prior trajectory.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
It's out of my control.
Yeah, so it's
That is not out of your control. The practice is not your control.
Okay, we'll start. So we left off yesterday. The questions. Start with the one which is actually number 11 on the list. What does it mean? And how can we understand that everything in Torah is emes, even when there are two opposite opinions? One says it's kosher, one says it's treif. One says you're allowed to do this on Shabbos, one says it's desecrating Shabbos. One says it's pure, one says it's impure, and you have to say that it's all true, it's the words of the living God. It's either one way or the other. How can they both be that way? There are more copies here for everyone. Yeah. So, to use as an example to understand this question, yesterday we had the class about, we spoke about the story of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, how after he passed, he came back to his family. There's another part of the story there, which I didn't go into, and that is that while he was sick, being that he was a Nasi, beloved by everybody, so that everybody davened for him, and everybody was concerned constantly about his health, which was getting worse and worse. And when the Chachamim, when the sages saw that his situation is unfortunately at a point where he's going to pass, so they had a meeting amongst themselves, and they came out with an announcement. And that was that nobody should say that Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi passed away. I'm not going into it now why they said that and what it means, but they said that nobody should say those words that he died. And then it actually happened. And you have to inform the people. So what do you say? So the Gemara says that one of the Tanoim, he came out and he said that the forces up there overpowered the forces down here. And everyone understood what that meant. So what it appears to be is that there's some sort of a tug of war. The Malachim, the angels up there were pulling Rabbeinu HaKadosh up there. We down here were pulling him down here, that he should be alive and healthy and well. And ultimately, they overpowered it and they defeated us, and Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi left us and he went up there. What's so difficult to understand in this story is we know there are different kinds of angels. Generally speaking, angels are holy angels. They serve Hashem. These are the angels we talk about in davening. They say, Kodesh, 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 Baruch Hu Hashem Kaimai. They're the angels that Hashem's shlichum. Hashem sends them on missions to do things. Then there's an angel like the Satan. His function is to be someone who's going to prosecute, find fault, and things like that. Here we're talking about the angels. We wasn't talking about the Satan, talking about angels, holy angels. So the holy angels in heaven were fighting that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi should pass away? How does that make sense? And not only that, but ultimately they won. They pulled him up to them. How does it make sense? I mean, he was a tzaddik, beloved by everybody, the leader of the Jewish people. That's why everybody was crying and begging and pleading that Hashem should cure him and should live long. And yet, the angels up there they were putting in all their energy that he should leave this world and go to that world. How does that make sense? Something similar to this is, everyone knows the famous story with the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov writes this in a letter to his brother-in-law, and this letter is actually the first page in the Sefer called Keser Shem Tov. Keser Shem Tov is a collection of different saying and different Divrei Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. The first page of the entire Sefer starts off with this letter. And this letter is the story that the Rebbe quoted definitely thousands of times, that the Baal Shem Tov went into the chamber of Mashiach, and he saw Mashiach, and he asked him, Emasai Kos Yomar, when are you coming? And Mashiach answered him, when your well springs will be spread out. However, it's a long letter. There are more details to this. And the details usually are not talked about. I remember the day that I opened up just to look it up, and I see, wow, there's a whole story, a whole background to this. And the background is the Baal Shem Tov writes, it was Rosh Hashanah at night, the year Tov Kov Zayin, which is 1846, probably in the English. And he said that his neshama went up. And is he writing to his brother-in-law that you can't imagine what kind of simcha was up there. I never saw such joy in my life. Not only that, but I saw people that I was shocked to see. Some of them were people from this world. So obviously tzaddikim who also went up. And some of them were tzaddikim of previous generations. And some of them were wicked people that you would be shocked to hear that their sins were forgiven and they were pardoned. And now they're in a good place. In other words, these were famous people who did really horrible sins, committed horrible sins. And yet, because of the great simcha, it looks like people were pardoned, their neshamas were pardoned, and amazing things were happening. Amidst all this, the Baal Shem Tov said they were begging me to go up to a higher place. But I didn't want to go because I never went that high and I was afraid to go. And I said, I'll only go on the condition if my Rebbe comes along with me. And who was his Rebbe? And he agreed. So together they went higher and higher until they came, and that's when they arrived to the chamber of Mashiach. And the Baal Shem Tov said when he walked in there, the simcha that he saw there was absolutely beyond anything he ever experienced. And he doesn't know why there was such a simcha. In fact, he doesn't know to this day why there was such a simcha. And then he says these words, which are also shocking. He thought the simcha was because, after all, his neshama was up there. That at this point, he's disconnected from this world. He left this world. And now he's joining that world. That's the simcha. So they informed him that it's not the case. He's still connected to this world. He's still alive. And he's going to come down. And Hashem wants him to continue his avodah in this world. So again, the same question. Baal Shem Tov is describing a simcha that's so outstanding that he never saw anything like that in his life. And he had a thought, maybe the simcha is because he died. How in the world does that make sense? Because he passed away from this world and he went to that world. That's why the simcha, that's the most tragic thing that could be. So the answer is obviously something that everybody knows, but we'll just try to put it all together. That the answer is based on something which is explained in Latin Chassidus. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that the Mishnah says the following: one moment in this physical world is greater than a lifetime of pleasure in the spiritual world. And one moment of pleasure in the spiritual world is greater than all the pleasure of an entire lifetime in this world. it's as contradictory as could be, all in one sentence. So this explains there's a certain advantage in this world and a certain advantage in that world. In terms of where do you see more openly spirituality, where does an neshama experience pleasure from its connection to spirituality? It's up there. There's no goof, there's no concealment, there are no curtains, nothing blocking. The light of Hashem is shining as bright as could be. So there's nothing blocking in the person, and there's nothing blocking by Hashem. And therefore, the pleasure that a person, I mean, if we can use this as an example, even though we don't usually like to bring in negative things, the Ramban writes, and the Alter Rebbe brings it in the Gerasa Tshuva, that the suffering of a neshama up there, when God forbid there's suffering of one moment, is more than 70 years of suffering, like the suffering of Iyar, of Job. Because everything up there is in a much greater measure than down here. Uses the mashal of the sun, that when the sun moves up there, we see that on the wall you would see the shade moving up. How much does the sun move up there, and how much does the shade move down here? Down here it can move 1 inch. When it moves 1 inch down here, we know that up there it moved hundreds and millions of thousands of miles up there in order to move 1 inch down here. So 1 inch down here is equivalent to hundreds of thousands of millions, much more up there. That's physically, and the same thing is also spiritually. So therefore, the pleasure of a neshama up there for one moment is more than all the pleasure here in this world. What's the advantage of this world? Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that when you learn Torah and you do mitzvahs, you embrace and you connect to the Atzmos Ein Sof, to the essence of Hashem. And the essence of Hashem is something which the neshama up there doesn't have. And all the light, even if a neshama would be there for hundreds of thousands and millions of years, it still doesn't compare to having the essence. So there's an advantage here and an advantage there. So therefore, if someone would ask you an objective question, so where's it better for the neshama to be down here or to be down there? The answer would be, like most answers, it depends. Depends. From one perspective, it's better down here. From another perspective, it's better up there. However, Hashem created humans on this world, and He created malachim up there, and also neshamas up there. And the difference is that because both are true, and both have to be sort of revealed, that's why we have a mission that says, one moment here is more than everything there, and one moment there is more than everything here. But for that purpose, Hashem created creations that their avodah, their mission, is to bring out the advantages of the spiritual worlds and the spiritual realm. Who are they? That's malachim. They are spiritual. They have no body. They live in a spiritual realm. And their mission is to reveal and to emphasize and to bring out and in the world the advantage of spirituality of Shamayim over Earth. We that are here on earth, our avodah is, and our mission is to bring out the advantage of the physical world over the spiritual world. But they're both true. If you follow this, it'll be much easier to go to the next step. Any questions on what I just said? I don't even know if everyone understands, or there's just no questions, or
I understand.
oh, okay, one customer. So I guess you're speaking for the whole class, right? Okay. So this is the answer to the first question. How come the malachim, the angels, who are doing everything they can for him to be up there, and we were doing everything we can to keep him down here? Because that's their avodah, and this is our avodah. Our avodah is, no matter how great things are up there, our mission and what Hashem put us in this world for is to dir b'tachtonim, to make a dwelling place down here, and to bring out the advantages that there is in the physical over the spiritual. So we have to do everything in that direction. This is the answer to the question someone asked yesterday. That exactly, but more or less, the question was, if a person, God forbid, suffers, there's tremendous tremendous spiritual benefit, then why should even daven to stop the suffering? They're going to lose that tremendous spiritual benefit. So I don't know if you got the answer because I said it very briefly, but this is the answer. But my avodah is, Hashem put me on this planet called Earth, and my mission, avodah, is to bring out godliness how it is in the physical world, which means I have to do everything I can that there should be godliness revealed in the physical world, which means health, happiness, and everything is working out good in a revealed good, begashmis, and revealed good, beruchnis. The fact that in a different level it's okay, so it depends. If it already happened, and I'm looking back at the past, and I need something to say to myself to understand that this was from Hashem and it's for a purpose, of course I will tell myself spiritually there was a benefit. But when I'm debating or thinking and choosing what to do next, I have to do everything I can that things should be revealed good in this physical world, because that's godliness being revealed here. Malachim, the angels, their avodah is for godliness to be revealed there. And our avodah is for godliness to be revealed here. So if a person with chas v'sholom be sick and not daven because they say, I'm sure Hashem knows what he's doing, and ultimately there's a benefit in the heavenly realm, they'd be going against Torah. According to Torah, if a person's sick, they should daven to Hashem. It's a halacha, it's a mitzvah, one of the 630 mitzvahs. And that's what davening has. Daven to Hashem, that I should be healthy. Of course, from a spiritual perspective, I have to do everything I can that godliness should be revealed down here. This is the same with the Baal Shem Tov. When Baal Shem Tov heard that, saw that they were all so besimcha, and he thought maybe because he passed away, of course he knew that he had to do everything to be alive in this physical world. But he thought maybe they up there in the spiritual realm, the neshamas and the angels and those who are up there, they see the advantage of that world. And therefore for them, this was a simcha that he was able to join them, be part of them, whether it's for his benefit, for their benefit, but because up there things are greater than down here. So here's an example. We have two opinions, and both are coming from good places, from great tzaddikim. These are the neshamas, these are the malachim, this is the people down here, these are the great angels up there, and they're both true. And the same is with everything in Torah. This goes back to the question, how could it be two opposite opinions should both be true? Because at the end of the day, there are truth to both of them, because from a certain perspective, this is the right way, and from another perspective, that's the right way. And therefore, there are two opinions. One opinion that says that it's tameh, and one opinion that it says that it's tahor. Let's give an example. Here in this booklet that I gave you is one page which we did not, there's more than one page that we didn't do. But let me draw your attention to no, maybe I did not put it in here. Let me just check. Anyway, there's a story in Gemara that there was a story with one of the sages. He was the head of the yeshiva, and because of a certain reason, they removed him from his position. And then they put someone else to be the leader and the head of the yeshiva. And the day that he took over, there were 400 more benches added to the yeshiva, which means there were so many more students, hundreds of thousands of students that came to the yeshiva weren't there before. What happened? Because the first one was very particular, that we're not allowing into the yeshiva only those that are really deeply sincere about their learning. And the new person that came in charge, he said, we don't have to be so particular. Every door is open for everybody. So naturally, when he saw that so many hundreds of people came to learn the yeshiva, he was very broken. Because of me, I'm talking about the first one, because of me, all these hundreds of people were denied yeshiva learning. So he had a dream at night, and they showed him from heaven a message And the content was that those students weren't really solid students. So you didn't lose anything, don't worry about it. And basically the way it's explained, again, these are two sages. What was the difference between them? The difference is what's more important, quality or quantity? The first one felt that the most important thing is the quality of the students. Even though if you don't focus on the quality, it'll be a more inferior quality, there'll be much more quantity, hundreds or thousands of students will join, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is they should be deeply connected to Torah and deeply sincere about learning, and that's what counts. So it's better to have less in quantity and more in quality. And the other opinion said it's best to have more in quantity and less in quality. So which is emes? So the answer is they're both emes. You can see the truth in both. The way Chassidus would explain it is that Hashem has two attributes. One is chesed and one is gevura. Chesed is more openness and not to be so particular and not to be so measuring and calculating. And gevura is to be calculating and measuring. Are they worthy? Are they not worthy? That's what gevura is all about. To withhold and those who don't really deserve to get what they're supposed to get. So basically, if you think of the attribute of chesed from a chesed perspective, you should open the yeshiva for everybody. And then you see the advantage in quantity over quality. If you look at things from a gevura perspective, then in that case, you are much more specific, much more particular that everybody that comes should be the right quality, even though there'll be less quantity. So in a sense, what we're saying is like this. Hashem has both attributes. They're both emes. They're both Hashem's attributes. Hashem created certain tzaddikim that their shlichus, their mission in the world is to reveal his chesed. And therefore, they approach things from a chesed approach. And by doing that, they're revealing Hashem's attribute of chesed. And when it comes to halacha, they're going to have the approach of being more accepted, being more lenient, and so on. Then there's other tzaddikim that their shlichus in the world is to reveal Hashem's gevura. And therefore, when it comes to an issue in halacha, they're going to be more specific, more particular, more measuring, more judgmental before they come up with a ruling. And they're going to say, these people are included, these people are excluded, these people are rejected, because they are approaching it with the attribute of gevura. And they're both right, because Hashem wants to reveal his chesed and his gevura. But then what's the halacha when it comes to certain things? Remember I told you the other day that all halachas really are about chesed and gevura, which means if there's a debate in Gemara, whether this oven is kosher, is tamei or tar, whether this food is kosher or treif, if there's such a debate, what does it mean? It must mean that if you say it's kosher, it means Hashem is saying you can elevate the godly spark in this food. If Hashem says that it's treif, if that's the halacha, Hashem is saying you can't elevate the godly spark in this food. That means the same thing again. If you look at it from a chesed approach, Hashem's attribute of chesed, the spark is also included, could also be elevated. And if you look at things from a gevura approach, then this spark cannot be elevated, and therefore this should be rejected, and this food is not kosher. And Hashem sent into this world tzaddikim, that they're there to reveal the chesed. So in their minds, when they look at the halacha, they see all the logic and all the reasons, and the way it makes sense to them is that this food should be kosher, and you could eat it, and you could elevate it. And to the other people, it makes sense that this food is not kosher, and it should be rejected. And the reason is because Beis Shammai is from gevura, and Beis Hillel is from chesed, and the same with the others. So what's the halacha? If they're both true. And the answer is the reason why the halacha is one way over the other is not because the reason and the logic in one is emes and the other one is distorted logic. No, they're both emes logically. They both make sense, and there's wisdom to both. However, the reason why the halacha is one way over the other because Hashem chose, for whatever reason known to Him, that this should be the halacha. That's all. Okay. I once had a friend that told me that he had a friend that they were together when they were young and hasn't heard from him for 10, 15 years. And then one day he meets him. Oh, how are you? I haven't seen you so much. He became frum, but he doesn't know whatever happened to his friend. And he sees his friend, how are you? Fine. Where do you live? California. And then he says, so how do you like California? Because you grew up in New York. He says, well, the Gashmi is California is better. The Ruchni is New York is better. Oh, I realized not only is he from, he must be connected to Lubavitch or something to do that. So what's the answer? What is better, California or Brooklyn? Weather-wise, there's nothing like Brooklyn. This is the best place in the world. California, San Diego, what do they know about weather? So the Gashmis is better there. Baruchnis is better here. So what's better to do? It depends. Some people, the Ruchnis is more important than the Gashmis. Some people, the Gashmis is more important than the Ruchnis. But it's both things are really true. And the same thing with everything. So basically, when it comes to Torah, what we're saying is Torah is Chachma, is wisdom. And there's a wisdom in the Chesed approach, and there's a wisdom in the Gvura approach. If you have students in a classroom, what's the best way to deal with a student that's not cooperating? Is it by showing them love and care and giving them gifts? And that's where you'll inspire them to change? Or is it by being strict and disciplining them, and they'll realize that you can't play games, and that's how they're going to change? What's a better approach? Always? In all cases? What's not? It depends. Baruch Hashem, you got the right word. In some cases, if you're very kind and you give them gifts, the more you're nice to them, the more they'll be jumping on your head because they can take advantage. In some cases, that's what's going to change. This is the sense what the Rebbe is saying, let's say, in the Gabi Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe is the epitome of chesed. Chesed, 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 chesed. Everybody, it makes no difference if you're observing a little bit of Yiddishkeit, a little bit less of Yiddishkeit, if you're totally not observing, even if you joined another religion, the Rebbe says, go to approach everybody with love and with chesed, and just accept them. Chesed, not only to Jews, but chesed even to non-Jews, to show kindness and to help wherever you can, tell them about the Shev Mitzvah Noach. All of a sudden, when it comes to the terrorists, the Rebbe has a different approach. As gevura as possible. Don't even talk to them. Don't even negotiate with them. If they know they're having a plan, you kill them before they get to you. How could you say such things? The ultimate of chesed. Let's be kind to them. And the answer is, like the Rambam writes, if you're kind and compassionate to those that are sadists, you're being sadistic to those that are compassionate. Which is what we see today, that when you're kind to somebody who is a murderer, and you're letting him do what he does, unfortunately, he's going to murder innocent people. So that means that there are times where the approach should be chesed, and the approach will be gvura, and it all depends on the situation. But there's wisdom to both, depending on what's going on. So therefore, when the Torah says that there's an opinion that says chesed, an opinion that says gvura, they're both emes, they're both divrei Elokim chayim, and if you want to reveal Hashem's chesed in the world, this is the way to do it. If you want to reveal Hashem's gvura in the world, that's the way to do it. So what does Hashem want? Hashem wants one way over the other, but not because one is emes and one is, like I said, the logic or the wisdom is doesn't make sense. But both emes, but for whatever reason, Hashem wants this. It's almost like saying, so what should I say? 2 + 2 = 4? Or is it okay to say 3 and 1 = 4? Which is emes? They're both emes. If Hashem says, but I want you to say 2 + 2 = 4. So I'll say 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't mean 3 + 1 is not 4. It just, that's not the way Hashem wants me to say it. But they're both emes. You can think of hundreds of examples of explaining this, but this is the general idea. So now let's go to the other questions. We'll see how it's all interconnected. We'll start with number 9 on the list, and that'll lead us into everything else. And again, I'm assuming that you're familiar with this already from before, but now we'll elaborate on it and see how it answers all those questions. Number 9 is the pasuk where Torah is called Mashal Akadmoni, Hashem's mashal, Hashem's parable. So what does it mean by Hashem's parable? So it's known, what it says in Chassidus. As you know, there's a custom for the men that during this period between Pesach and Shavuos, there are 49 days. We should learn a Gemara called Soita that has 49 pages. And every day we learn one page and we finish it by Shavuos. So in that Gemara, it finishes off by saying how the generations are becoming weaker and weaker and weaker in those days. And the Gemara says, when this sage passed away, that's when this stopped. When this sage passed away, that's when that stopped. And goes through a list of things. It says when Rabbi Meir passed away, that was the end of an era of people that gave parables. On the surface, it's very hard to understand what's so amazing about giving a parable. Anybody here in this room could make up a parable. Parable is a story that brings out an idea. And if we think of Hashem as the king, and the Bnei Yisrael as the queen, or Hashem is the husband, and Bnei Yisrael is the wife, or Hashem is a teacher, Bnei Yisrael is a student, they can make up a little story, and that's going to explain something in the Chumash or Gemara or whatever it is. Where's the great wisdom in parables? And what was the wisdom of Reb Meir that he gave 300 parables? So the answer is, Chassidus explains that there's parables the way we make parables. I can make a parable, you can make a parable. These are just little stories that make it easy to understand. But in the Gemara, when the sages made parables, it was only on certain situations. If the concept was so deep and so abstract that no matter how you explain it, whichever side you try to explain it, it's beyond something that could be perceived by the students that couldn't grasp it. The only way the teacher could deliver this concept, the only way the teacher could communicate this concept is by investing it and enclosing it in a parable. The parable the students could understand, of course, and they should realize that in this parable there's tremendous wisdom, and slowly but surely they work on the parable and they analyze the parable, and eventually they extract all the wisdom that's hidden in the parable. So again, a parable is only given when there's a concept that's extremely deep, deep meaning deep and abstract, and there's just no language that the teacher could even communicate this to the student. I know you're thinking, what could that be? But I'll give you an example. Try to think of yourself. If a 3-year-old is going to ask you to explain, and you want to explain to them the difference between the sphere of Chachma and Bina, could you do it? Come back and tell me tomorrow if you succeeded. Whatever you're going to say, Chachma is this and Bina is that, they'll look at you, they will know what in the world they're talking about. They'll ask you, is it vanilla or chocolate? That'll be the question at the end of your speech. Is it big or is it small? Is it round or is it square? Could it fit in my pocket? No. Chochmah and Bina, I want to explain, these are spirits. These are lights of Hashem in the spiritual realm. They don't know what in the world you're talking about. And no matter how you say it, you won't be able to explain it. Try to imagine there are people smarter than us. They understand things at an extremely, extremely abstract level. And when they talk to us, it's the same thing. They can't explain it because they are understanding it so deep that no matter what words they use, we won't get it. Then you need a mashal. So Reb Meir was the end of that era, that people understood things on such a level of depth that they needed a mashal. And he himself gave 300 mashalim. So the Gemara, so Chassidus explains, and that's even more incredible. The mashal was so deep that it needed a mashal to explain the mashal. Okay, thank you for letting us know. And the mashal needs a mashal to understand the mashal. So in other words, Reb Meir was so deep that what he understood, he needed 300 layers of mashalim to bring it down from his level of understanding to the students. And that's quite deep. Which also means when it says in reference to Shlomo Melech that he gave 3,000 Mishalim, it doesn't mean he sat down and wrote down 3,000 Maisalach, little stories, cute little stories. It means that whatever he understood was so deep that for him to explain one concept that he understood, bring it down to his students, he had to bring it down 3,000 levels of Mishalim to be able to reach someone down here. We need a mashal to understand how we don't understand. Okay, this is Shlomo Melech, and this is Rabbi Meir. What about Hashem? Hashem's wisdom is beyond. So of course he needs a mashal to explain what he's understanding. And that's what the Torah is. Anyone who looks into the Torah and he sees the story with Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak and Yaakov and Moshe and the desert and the brothers and the Shvatim and what happened here, what happened there, and he sees the mitzvahs, the halachas, and thinks what they see, this is the wisdom of Hashem, this is it. There couldn't be anything more foolish than that. Of course, this is the wisdom of Hashem. But this is just the exterior of the exterior of the exterior of the exterior. The wisdom itself is infinitely greater than what we see when we look at a pasuk in Chumash or at a Mishnah or a Halach in Gemara. There's wisdom to it, and that wisdom had to be sort of evolved from level to level until it's brought down to a way that we can possibly understand it. So the whole story of the Chumash with Moshe Rabbeinu in Mitzrayim, with the Yidden in the Midbar, the story with Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, or the Shvatim, the story with Abraham and Sarah, and the king of Egypt, the king of here and there. All these stories have such depth to it, but that depth is presented in this story, which actually happened, but the depth is infinitely greater than anything you can imagine. The wisdom, the actual wisdom itself, is something way, way beyond this physical presentation. Agreed? Everybody follow me? Yeah? Okay. So therefore we understand, number 9, why the Torah is called Hashem's Mashal. Because all the wisdom in Torah, even the wisdom when we understand it, and we see the wisdom in the story, the wisdom in the pasuk, the wisdom in the halacha, but the mere fact that I understand it is because it's a mashal to the real deep, deep, deep wisdom that's there. So this is the meaning of number 10. Let's go slowly from one to the next. Number 10 are the words of the Shalah, that the Torah really speaks on a higher level and hints to us on a lower level. This is a true story of a certain rabbi that came out with very, very, very strong criticism. He saw a mimer from the Frierdiker Rebbe, but the Frierdiker Rebbe said that in Gan Eden, when they studied Torah, down here, you study Torah, you learn laws about donkeys and an ox. Let's say there's a halacha. If two people are doing an exchange, I'll give you my donkey and you give me your ox. What would be in this scenario? What's the halacha? There are questions in halacha, okay? So he said, in Gan Eden, they're not learning it about a donkey and an ox. They're learning it about the same thing, but on a much deeper level. So this person came out and said, this is heresy. How could you say such a thing? The Torah is the Torah doesn't change. In other words, there is no more depth to the Torah. This is it. In Gan Eden, all the angels and Hashem himself are all learning about donkeys and an ox. Now, of course, donkeys and ox, that's the Torah the way we know it. But the wisdom in the halacha that pertains to a donkey and an ox, and the wisdom in the halacha that pertains to agricultural halachas, or other kind of halachas, the wisdom in it is infinitely greater than the wisdom that pertains to a donkey and an ox. It's a wisdom that's so much more abstract. The wisdom behind it is the way it's studied in Gan Eden, which of course means when you understand it, what would evolve from that, that if a donkey and an ox are exchanged, such and such would be the results. But the wisdom is much more than the wisdom we see in the donkey and ox. That's the mashal compared to the real wisdom. And again, let's not confuse this with chas v'shalom. We're not in any way saying that the words of Torah are not literally. Everything is literal. The mitzvahs are literal. The halachas are literal. But we're saying the wisdom in the halacha. Every halacha has wisdom to it. That wisdom is a mashal to the real wisdom, which is infinitely, not 300 levels, and not 3,000 levels, but infinitely deeper than what we could see and understand. And that's what it means. The Torah is really speaking on a higher level. But because Hashem wanted that to transmit and communicate his wisdom to us in this physical world, and we should be studying it, and we should be debating the issues, he brought it down in a language which we could relate to, and he brought it down in reference to things that we can relate to, which is the Gashmistic world. And that's what the Torah is all about. So the Torah really speaks about Elyonim and Elus to Tachtonim, versus the opposite opinion of people who misunderstand, and they say the Torah is talking about Gashmias, about donkeys and ox and animals, and yeah, there's something you can also learn from it about heavenly things. Follow? Yeah, okay. So tomorrow we'll continue how this leads into the other things. Try not to forget everything we said today. And tomorrow we'll continue. Yeah.
Then speaks the, well, whatever, there are two levels, to serve Hashem, and like one of the level, one of the, no levels, we